Have you ever felt like you're living two lives? One life that you show to the world, polished, stable, and control, and another life deep inside you where silent dreams, whisper dreams you've never dared to say out loud. You try to keep everything together. You try to stay in control. But why does it keep getting more exhausting? It's because you're living split in two. Half of you moving toward the future, the other half stuck somewhere in the past. If that sounds like you, welcome. You've clicked on the right video. Because if you've ever placed a hand on your chest, stared at the ceiling, and quietly asked yourself, is this life really mine? Then this video is for you. Maybe you're living a proper life. You work hard, you're responsible, polite, agreeable. Other people may even admire you from afar. But only you know the truth behind the smile. That quiet kind of tiredness that doesn't go away. That strange emptiness that creeps in when everything around you is finally still. You might laugh at dinner parties and cry when you're alone. The truth is, so many of us are living between two worlds. One world that society rewards logic, discipline, achievement, control, and another world where your heart tries to speak, where unspoken desires live, where irrational dreams still quietly breathe. We grow up carrying hundreds of expectations, trying to be who our parents wanted, who our friends respect, who society finds acceptable. But then one day when the lights go out, when the performance ends, you quietly wonder, who am I and how do I really want to live? It's not because you're weak. It's not because you have failed. It's because you've been holding together a bridge for too long, a bridge between your true self and your programmed self. And maybe it's time to stop, to pause and ask yourself the most honest question of all. What life is actually mine? 1. Sarah, the dream that hides after hours. Sarah is 34, a mid-level manager at a tech company in Chicago. From the outside, she's made it six-figure salary, respected at work. Her parents couldn't be prouder. But every night after her kid is asleep, Sarah sits at her laptop, not to work on spreadsheets, but to write fiction. Writing was her first love. She started at 13, but her parents told her it wasn't practical. So eventually she convinced herself that writing is just a hobby. On her morning commute, she plays audio recordings of her short stories just to feel her heart beat faster for a moment. But then she walks into the office, puts on her mask, and resumes the role of successful professional woman. 2. James, stuck between expectations and a calling. James, 26, grew up in a family of doctors in New York. His path was clear: excel in school, get into med school, become a resident. He did it all. But there's one thing James never told anyone: he's in love with music. He's been playing guitar since he was 9, writing songs since he was 16, and he secretly runs a YouTube music channel with thousands of views. Music is the one place where James feels like himself, but he can't walk away from medicine. Not because he hates it, but because he can't stand the idea of disappointing his family. So each morning as he puts on his white coat, he swallows his true self, just to keep the peace. Right? Emily, 2 passports, 2 souls. Emily, 40, is a Korean-American university professor living in California. She moved to the U.S. at 18, built a solid career, has a home, a family, a life. But deep down, she's always felt like a woman caught in between. In the U.S., she's too Asian to fully belong. In Korea, she's too American to fully fit in. She dreams in English, but feels most moved when she hears old songs in her native tongue. One winter night after an international conference, she sat by the window of a hotel room and cried, not out of exhaustion, but because she realized for 20 years she's been picking sides, hiding one part of herself to survive in the other. And now all she wants is to live fully, not between two worlds, but fully inside her true one. There's a line in psychology that sounds simple, but hits deep. We don't live according to what's true, we live according to what we think we need in order to be loved. And that's why so many of us aren't really living our lives. We're living a revised version of ourselves, edited, filtered, programmed to meet someone else's expectations. When the false self versus the true self, psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott came up with this idea in the 20th century. The true self is the most real, raw part of you. It's creative, alive, sometimes messy, but deeply honest. It's who you are when you're not trying to be anyone. The false self is the mask you built to survive in a world that didn't let you be yourself. It's made out of praise and disapproval from parents, teachers, society. Maybe you were once a loud, silly, artistic kid singing too loud, drawing on every surface. Then you got scolded for being too noisy. You got compared for being too distracted. So you learned to quiet down. Maybe you wanted to dance, but someone said boys don't do that. So you learned to shut it off. That's how the false self was born. Not because you were fake, but because you were trying to survive. But here's the catch. The longer you live as the false self, the more hollow you feel inside. Because you might fool the world, but you can't fool yourself. 2. Cognitive dissonance. This is a psychological term that describes what happens when your inner beliefs and your outer actions don't match. You believe you're creative, but spend your day doing robotic tasks. You say you love nature, but haven't seen the sky in months. You say you want freedom, but stay in relationships because you're scared to hurt someone. That mismatch, it creates internal friction, guilt, anxiety, exhaustion, and you don't even know why. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're waking up. 3. Limiting beliefs. There are things you've heard since you were little. No one told you to believe them, but you absorb them anyway. You can't make money doing art. Men shouldn't cry. A good girl never talks back. If you want to be safe, you'll have to give up your passion. These aren't just thoughts. They're invisible walls quietly blocking you from the life you crave. Worse, they make you doubt yourself. You don't quit your job because you wonder, am I even good enough to live off my passion? You don't come out because you fear, will anyone still love me? You don't say no because you feel, am I being selfish? The truth is, no one's holding you back. But that's not your fault. These beliefs were planted in you long before you had the power to say no. 4. The survival mode. Most of the time, we don't choose the wrong life because we're stupid. We do it because we're scared. Scared of rejection. Scared of disappointing others. Scared of being labeled too much, too rebellious or ungrateful. So you take the safe route. You stay in the job you don't love. You keep the relationship that's gone numb. You silence the voice inside you thinking, at least I'm surviving, and you are surviving. But are you really living? In short, you don't feel torn because you're weak. You feel torn because you're carrying two selves. One version of you programmed to be who others want, and another version screaming quietly to be real again. And the question isn't, which one do I choose? It's, how do I bring them home into one honest whole self? But how do you know you're not living your real life? Sometimes you don't realize it right away because you're still functioning, still doing well, still playing your role. But if you really listen, there are signs, quiet signs, but very, very clear ones. One, woman, you're tired, even when you're not doing much. Not the kind of tired you get after a long day of hard work. It's an emotional tiredness from always having to manage your image, from watching every word, every nod, every smile. You wake up with a sigh. You go to sleep wondering, is it just going to be the same tomorrow? You're not busy. You're just uninspired. 2, you feel like you're performing, you talk, you smile, you behave appropriately. But deep down, it's like there's a pane of glass between you and the world. You're saying what you're supposed to say, doing what's normal. You're playing the role of the successful one, the good child, the ideal partner. But backstage, you just want to take the costume off and breathe. 3, you envy people who are living honestly. You see a friend quit their job to travel, and instead of being happy for them, something inside you aches. You see someone come out and be accepted, and you admire them, then feel mad at yourself. You hear someone say, I'm living my dream, and you smile, but say nothing. That envy isn't bitterness. It's a sign that they had the courage and you're still searching for. 4, you've lost touch with yourself. You can't remember the last time you felt truly happy. You don't really know what you want, what you love, what you believe in. When you have free time, you just scroll. When someone asks, what's your dream? You freeze like you forgot your own language. That's the sign. You've been away from your inner self for too long. 5, you feel like you're waiting for something. You keep telling yourself this is just temporary. One day things will change. Something will show up. Someone will come along, then I'll start. But month after month, year after year, you're still waiting. Waiting for life to give you permission to live real. 6. You experience quiet breakdowns. No one sees them. No drama, no tears, just quiet nights, a racing heart, and that trapped feeling you can't explain. You might feel like crying in the middle of a meeting or hate your reflection for no reason. Those silent breakdowns, that's your true self waving a white flag. 7. You over-rationalize everything. It's not that bad. I don't hate my job that much. Maybe I'll find time for myself later. Not everyone gets to live their dream. If you have to keep convincing yourself that you're okay, maybe you're not. 8. You constantly question and criticize yourself. What's wrong with me? Why can't I feel happy? Am I selfish for wanting something different? That inner doubt, it's not your fault. It's what happens when you've lived too long ignoring your own voice. You were trained to think your dreams were unrealistic. Now you can't tell if your intuition is real or if it's just fear talking. So what now if you've seen yourself in 3, 5, maybe even all of these signs? Don't panic. And please don't think something is broken in you, because recognizing the truth is the first step home. Back to your real self, not perfect, not polished, just honest. We've all lost ourselves at some point, but here's the good news. The real you never disappears. It's just been waiting for you to finally come back. Since you were a kid, you've been splitting yourself in two just to survive. One part of you got to be seen, the acceptable part. The other part got hidden, the too much, too sensitive, too weird part. And so you grew up with two selves. One self goes to work, follows the rules, avoids making trouble. The other self whispers in the dark asking, is this really the life I want to be living? But there comes a moment, and no one can say exactly when you just can't live split in two anymore. Not because you're trying to rebel, but because you're ready to be whole. Biden. 1. Start by accepting your inner conflict. A lot of people think being authentic means always knowing who you are. It doesn't. Living authentically starts with admitting something much messier. I'm conflicted. I want stability, but I also crave freedom. I'm scared of change, but I can't keep living like this. You don't have to decide anything yet. Just stay honest about where you are. Sometimes that inner conflict isn't a problem. It's a sign you're growing deeper. 2. Learn to listen to the self you left behind. Your true self doesn't shout. It whispers. You only hear it when you stop, when you put your phone down, when you take a slow walk alone, when you write without judgment. Try this. Journal each morning. If no one judged me, how would I live today? Notice what makes your heart feel light and what makes it shrink. Ask yourself, who was I before the world told me how to behave? You'll realize there's a part of you still alive, still real, just waiting for you to come home. 3. Start with small but honest actions. No one's asking you to quit your job, move cities, or change your life overnight. Wholeness doesn't come from big dramatic gestures. It comes from tiny, honest steps. Write a blog post even if no one reads it. Wear something that actually feels like you. Say no when you mean no, even if it disappoints someone. Turn off your phone for 1 hour each night just to be alone. Take a personal day just to breathe. These aren't life makeovers. They're just simple ways to come back to yourself. 4. Face your fear of rejection. Here's the hard truth when you start living authentically. Some people will leave, maybe an ex, maybe an old friend, maybe even someone in your family. But here's what you'll find. The ones who stay are the ones who love you, not the version you perform. The new people who come are drawn to the real you. And even though it'll be painful, there's a deep sense of relief, because finally you're not pretending anymore. 5. Redefine success by your own standards. A lot of people live split lives because they're chasing someone else's version of success. A house, a degree, a job title, a respectable lifestyle. But you have every right to pause and ask, what does success mean to me? Is it waking up to paint, even if no one buys your art? Is it having a simple life that gives you time to love your people deeply? Is it just being able to leave the house without putting on a fake smile? You don't need success that impresses the world. You just need success that feels real to you. 6. Learn to live whole instead of picking sides. Becoming your true self doesn't mean choosing between safe and passionate, between stable and creative. It means integrating all of who you are, not picking just one version. You can work a 9 to 5 and write at night. You can be quiet and still speak your truth. You can be a responsible child without ignoring your inner voice. Wholeness doesn't mean living under one label. It means honoring all the parts of you without denying any of them. You don't need to start over. You just need to come back to yourself one small piece at a time. This path of becoming whole, it's not a straight line. There will be days when everything feels clear and days when everything feels cloudy. But if you keep being honest, keep listening, keep walking slowly but steadily, you'll realize you don't need to live two separate lives anymore. You just need one life. One life, but live truthfully. Real change doesn't start with a big, bold decision. It starts with a quiet moment, a private question. Am I really being honest about how I'm living? And if the answer is not yet, that's okay. Because real lasting change doesn't come from forcing yourself to be someone else. It comes from slowly, gently peeling away everything that's not really you. Step 1, redefine what a right life means for you. Most of us grow up living by someone else's definition of what's right, what stability means, what success means, what happiness means. All important from our families, school, society. But no one really stops to ask you, what do you think? So take a moment to write it down honestly. What does a right life mean to you? When do you feel most alive? What would make you want to wake up in the morning? What are you truly tired of pretending or pushing through? This isn't a school essay. This is your inner compass. And if you don't hold it yourself, someone else will steer for you. Step 2, identify what's splitting you in half. Every day you do dozens of things. Some might be exhausting, but they still feel right. Others slowly drain the life out of you bit by bit. Pay attention. When do you feel like you're performing? When do you breathe easier, like you finally get to be yourself? What moments make you think, this isn't me? Which conversations leave you feeling lonely even in a crowded room? Don't overanalyze it too soon. Just be honest. Your feelings are the most honest data you have. Step 3, free one small piece of yourself each week. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to move cities. You don't need a dramatic reset. Instead, start small. One meaningful step a week. This week, maybe it's reading a book you used to love. Next week, write down something you have been scared to admit. This week after that, say no to an invitation you don't want. It doesn't have to be bold. It just has to be in the right direction. And if you do that each week, by this time next year, you won't be living as two separate selves anymore. Step 4, find or create a safe space for your real self. No one can live authentically if they're always on guard. You need a space or a person or a moment of time where you don't have to perform. Maybe it's a quiet weekend morning at your favorite coffee shop. Maybe it's one friend who doesn't judge. Maybe it's writing in a journal every night in silence. Don't wait for the world to create that space for you. Make it happen. You deserve a place where you can finally exhale. Step 5, practice honesty, especially with yourself. Being honest doesn't mean having all the answers. It means being brave enough to say, I'm not sure, but I want to find out. Practice telling the truth first to yourself, then to others. I don't know if I still love this job. I'm tired and I don't want to fake being okay. I need time to listen to myself. I'm changing. I don't know where I'm going yet, but I can't keep doing this. Every time you speak your truth, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Step 6, forgive your past self. Real transformation doesn't just come from change. It also comes from forgiveness. You might feel angry with yourself for living inauthentically for too long, for choosing a path that wasn't yours, for missing opportunities. But try to understand you did the best you could with what you knew, with the fears you hadn't yet overcome. You don't need regret. You just need gratitude for how far you've come. And from now on, you get to walk a different path, one that's softer, truer, more you. True change doesn't start on the outside. It starts from within. From the things you dare to admit, the fears you dare to release, the steps you dare to take. You don't need to be better. You don't need to be more successful. You just need to come home to yourself, no more apologizing, no more explaining, no more pretending. Life doesn't ask you to be perfect. It just asks you to be real with your own heart. You've already come a long way, not in miles, but in spirit, from a place of doubt to a place where you're finally starting to see yourself clearly. You've lived two lives, one that made sense, one that helped you survive. But if you're still watching this video all the way to the end, then that means you're ready, or at least you're listening to the voice calling you home. Home to what? To a place where you don't have to earn your worth, to a place where every question, every fear, every unfinished dream is welcome at the table, to a place where you can breathe and not feel like a burden. Home to you. Don't wait until everything's perfect to be real. Don't wait for someone to give you permission. Life doesn't wait for the ready. It waits for the ones who dare to start even when they're not ready. You'll doubt yourself again. You'll feel stuck again. There will be days your old self tries to pull you back. But never forget, one honest step, no matter how small, is more powerful than 1,000 empty ones. You don't have to live an either-or life anymore. You can live one life that's both peaceful and deep, safe and free. And if you still don't believe you're brave enough, just remember your true self has been waiting for you a long time. It's not mad. It hasn't left. It's just whispering every night, when are we going to finally live? For real, now you know. And you can start today.